Good morning. Glad to have you here. I hope you're enjoying getting a day off from work. But more importantly, hope you're going to enjoy what you learn during the next few hours. And even more important than that, I hope you're going to put it to use. Now, I'm not going to embarrass anybody by asking this as a question. However, you may have noticed at your desk here in the hotel, they provided you with a little pad and a little pen. That's their way of saying we know most of the people who show up for these seminars won't bring a pad and a pen. But I want you to form a new habit right now. I want you to commit yourself to it. So this will help you in your personal life as well as your business life. And the habit is simple and easy to form, and that is everywhere you go, in your personal life and in your business life, you always want to be able to reach into your pocket and pull out a pen. You always want to have something to write with and something to write on. Yes, I know you've got your iPhone with you, and I know that you can put stuff on there, but I want you to commit yourself to always having a pen and paper handy, whether you're going to a seminar or whether you're doing your job or whether you're just out with friends. Always have a pen and paper handy, because regardless of where we go electronically with our tablets and our iPhones and this sort of thing, the fact remains that the physical act of writing something down also physically embeds it in your brain. So we want to write stuff down. I call it the principle of WSD. Write stuff down. Because today you're going to get a lot of stuff, and I've seen surveys done that say that people who go to workshops and seminars without that reinforcement tend to forget over 80% of what they learned within a couple of weeks. So this is the reinforcement that will get you the maximum return for your investment of time to be here today. Now let's talk about time management a little bit. What does that really mean? Well, there are four major areas to be addressed as far as time management is concerned. Number one is yourself, because there's one thing that every human being on planet Earth, not just here in the U.S., but every one of the billions of human beings on planet Earth are absolutely equal in, and that's the amount of time we get each week. Every human being gets exactly 168 hours per week, no more, no less. The richest man in the world doesn't get 169 hours in his week. The poorest bum out on the corner with a cardboard sign looking for help doesn't have to make do with 167 hours a week. He gets 168 just like all the rest of us. And the difference between people who achieve their goals, accomplish their purpose, both at work, at home, and in their personal life, the difference is how we utilize our time. The third area that we want to address is our stuff. You know, for many of us, life is all about stuff. We want to get more stuff. We want to get rid of stuff we're not using anymore. We want to organize our stuff. We want to make sure that we have enough stuff to get the job done. So we're going to talk about our stuff at work and a little bit about our stuff at home as well, and what we can do to get it more in our control. Because the idea of time management is not just the time, but the management, the control of these things. And the fourth area, and probably the most important of all, because it's summary of all the other three areas, is how we're managing our life. Because our life is made up of one day after another. It's made up of time and how we utilize that time and what we get for utilizing that time. So those are the four areas that we're going to address today. So let's first look at how we're managing ourself, because self-management is extremely important. Sure, your boss will tell you this and your boss will tell you that. However, we still have choices that we make. In fact, everything in life, both at work and at home, is a matter of choice. Now, I know some of you are thinking, well, now, not so much, Dave. I have to go to work. And I say, no, you don't. Well, I have to pay my bills. No, you don't. Will I go to jail? Yes, you will. But it's all a matter of choice. You get to make the choices. And you are where you are today. You have in your checking account exactly what you have today. You have the kind of family and relationships that you have today because of choices we have made up until today. And the good news is we can make some new choices. In fact, that's one of the reasons you're here today. I told you already, one thing I want you to practice is having a pen and paper handy always. Second thing I want you to practice is reminding yourself periodically throughout the day, I have choices. Because if you're going to manage anything or anybody at work, at home, or in a friendly circle, the fact is you've got to remind yourself periodically, I have choices. And I'm going to make those choices and do it in such a way that it gets me the outcomes that I want. Because you see, every choice we make is profitable. That's a good word, profitable. Why is it profitable? Because every choice we make is either going to get us the outcome that we planned for, or it's going to give us a lesson that we certainly needed to learn. Remember, life is all about getting lessons so we can do more with less, so we can do more effective use of our time. And that's what we are all about. But by managing ourselves first, we can then address ourselves to the specific issue of time. Now again, we each get 24 hours in our day. Some of that time we're going to spend sleeping, some of it we're going to spend eating, some of it we're going to spend going to the bathroom. But what do we do with the rest of it? Because that's our choice. Now, am I saying we should be working 15, 16 hours a day? No, not necessarily. It's your choice what you do. And it is a choice about how we utilize that valuable time. You know, this is the one ingredient that goes into success or failure in every area of your life, and that is how we invest our time. And here's another thought I want you to keep with you, jot it down on your pad if you have it handy, and that is how we invest our time is going to indicate what kind of outcomes we get in our life, what kind of success, however you measure success in your life, is going to be based on how we each invest our time. Now, you notice I used the word invest our time. A lot of people don't use that word. They don't think about it as an investment. They think about spending time. Well, here's the habit I want you to remember. I want you to discard that word spending time or wasting time from this point forward. Why? Because it is your most valuable asset. And whereas you wouldn't take a $100 bill out of your pocket and throw it into the wind to go anywhere it wanted to, we sometimes will take $100 worth of our time and do the same thing. So I want you to start thinking about your time as even more valuable than money, because you can always get more money, but can you always get more time? Ask the man in a hospital bed who's been just given notice by his doctor he has 6 weeks left to live. How much of his fortune, regardless of how much or how small it may be, how much of his fortune do you think he would pay to get another month, 2 or 3 more months? You see, time is worth more than money. So I want you to start thinking about how you're investing your time, reconsidering both at home and at work how your time might be best invested. And start making the kind of choices you would make if it was your money, because your time is worth more than money. You choose how you're going to invest it and what kind of return you're going to get from it. Okay? Now, here's a thing that I hear a lot of complaints about in the workplace. Well, Dave, I try to organize my time. I make a to-do list, which is not necessarily the best thing to do. However, some people do that. And I've got everything all planned out, and then somebody comes along and interrupts me. Or maybe 2 or 3 of my coworkers interrupt me. Or maybe the boss interrupts me. What do I do in that particular case? Well, again, this is a strategy you want to plan out beforehand. And you don't want to be rude to people. You don't want to be abrasive to them, because those things come back to haunt you. Instead, what we want to do is have created in our minds a basic plan for handling those interruptions. Now, here's where I'm going to give you a chance to sort of work in some small groups here. I'm going to let you get organize these first two rows in one group, the second two rows in another group, the next two rows in another group. And what I'm going to give you a few minutes to discuss is how you handle interruptions. So we're going to give you a few minutes to discuss that, and then we'll find out what you did. Okay, what have you come up with? How do you handle interruptions? You just ignore them? Well, that's one way of approaching it, certainly. How did you handle interruptions? You tell the people, I haven't got time? Well, it's another way of handling them. How do you handle interruptions? Well, if it's your boss, you let them interrupt you. Okay, that's one way to handle it. How do you handle interruptions? You handle interruptions by stopping whatever you're doing and listening to what the person has and then deciding whether or not you want to be interrupted. Well, all those are typical choices, but they're not choices that we have to make. Remember what we said a little bit earlier? Everything in life is a choice. We can make choices that are more productive for us. Let's take a typical interruption that most people have very difficult time handling. Coworkers? Maybe yes. But the boss comes and says, I want you to stop whatever you're doing and I want you to work on this because this is most important. Do you just say, okay, boss, you're the boss. That's what I'll do. Or do you bring out your organized to-do list, and like I said, I don't even like to call it the to-do list, but your organized things on your platter today, so to speak. And you show it to the boss, not in a smart aleck, well, look what I've got to do, not that kind of thing, but you show it to him and say, well, I can certainly understand the importance of what you just told me, boss, but here's what I have on my agenda for today. Which one of these things should we set aside so we can give top priority to the thing you just asked me for? Now, what did you just do? You just threw the ball back in the boss's court. The boss now has to figure out what it is that he or she wants to get done and how important it is and what, if anything, should be set aside to make room for this, because the simple truth is you can only do so many things in so much time. So you want to pay attention to how you do that. Let's talk briefly about your stuff. Most of us have too much stuff on our desks. Many of us have too much stuff in our cubicle or in our workspace as well. Sometime when you have a few moments, instead of going out to smoke a cigarette or go drink a cup of coffee, maybe it might be a good idea to take inventory of the stuff you have. By that I mean write it down, all the stuff you see right in your immediate work area. And then when you have another moment free, to go through and cross off those things that you're not using on a daily or a weekly basis. In other words, if you've got stuff that you haven't used in 2 or 3 weeks, the chances are that you don't need to be having it around. It's just interrupting the flow of your activities on a day-to-day basis. And the chances are good that someone else has that same stuff that you could borrow and do that with. And speaking of someone else, delegation is another key to successful management of time. Oh, what's that you say? I'm not the boss. I can't delegate to anyone. Well, we can make exchanges delegation with our co-workers, meaning I'll do this for you if you'll do that for me. And as you practice this, you will find, looking around, that some of your co-workers are very talented in some areas that you have a bit of difficulty with. And why don't you swap off some of the things that they do very well and let them swap to you some of the things that you do very well, and you get that team atmosphere really working for you instead of against you. Finally, the last thing that I wanted to mention to you today is about your life. Because your life is made up of a day-to-day basis. How we handle our lives, both at work, at home, is the end product of how effectively we take control and make the choices that we make. And as we begin to realize and set up goals for ourselves, in other words, where do you want to be a month from now? Where do you want to be 3 months from now? Where do you want to be a year from now or 10 years from now? Well, that's entirely your choice. Am I saying we always achieve our goals? Of course not. However, to have those goals gives you something to work on every single day. And at the end of the day, I'm going to leave you with this thought. At the end of every day, we started out the day by making a list of those things we wanted to accomplish today, right? Okay, so at the end of every day, why don't you just take a moment or two and sit down and make a list of the things you did get done today. Not a list of those things you're frustrated about because didn't get done, but a list of the things you actually got accomplished today. What did I get done today? It brings us a certain amount of satisfaction to write those down and see them on a piece of paper. So you want to do just that. Now, how do you learn even more than what you're learning in today's seminar? Well, if you've noticed during the breaks at the back of the room, we have a number of books and audios by people who have spent literally years studying how to make the most effective use of their time. And we can, in a matter of days, get the experience that they have taken years to achieve and do so in a way that will make us more effective, more productive, and as a result, a lot more valuable to our company.